My name is Liz Monger. I'm the VP Marketing and Sustainability for the Inventa Capital Group of Companies, and I am pleased to introduce our team that will be presenting on today's call. Michael Connert, President and CEO of Vizsla Silver, Martin Dupuy, COO, and Jesus Velador, VP Exploration. Following the presentation, we will have a question and answer period. Please type your questions into the Q&A tab, and time allowing, we will do our best to answer them. Take it away, Mike.
Well, thank you, Liz, and good morning, everybody. It's Michael Connert here. I am the founder and CEO of Vizsla Silver, and as Liz mentioned, joined here by Martin Dupuy and Jesus Velador. We're thrilled to be here today. It's another credible milestone for the company. We'll talk about the updated resource estimate for Panuco today and go through a detailed review of the resource estimate. But first of all, I want to say thank you to the Vizsla team. Thank you to the communities that we work in Sinaloa, and certainly thank you to our shareholders, because without the support of our shareholders, we certainly wouldn't be here. So we appreciate that. Now, I do want to highlight here, we have a new tagline on our presentation. We are exploring and de-risking the world's next world-class silver district. It's something that we always believed from the beginning, certainly that at the very beginning, that we had the potential to become one of these world-class silver districts. Monday's release, I think, has cemented that. And, we're very excited about what we see here. I'll talk about this a little later, but, to see both the contained ounces and the grade increase in a resource estimate like this, and then to know that it's just, a stop along the way for the company. This is something that you only see in these tier one assets. So, we're thrilled about that. And I think this new tagline, exploring and de-risking the next world-class silver district, fits what we're doing very well. I'll remind people we are traded on the New York Stock Exchange and the TSXV under the ticker VZLA. Next slide, please. Now, I probably already made some forward-looking statements. I'm going to continue to make forward-looking statements. I do think that the best is certainly ahead of us here for Vizsla Silver. So please be mindful of this, this statement here. Next slide. So, our Panuco Gold and Silver project, it's a unique project. It's not something that we optioned from a prospect generator or took out of the hands of a major. This is a project that we consolidated dating back to late 2019 when we announced that originally in the first place. But, it took a year of working with private landholders in Mexico and actually entering into a relatively high priced at the time option agreement, which we extinguished and now own the project 100%. But, this wasn't an easy path to have this land package. And as a result, we've been able to do something that very few companies have been able to do, which is consolidate a tier one district like this. And what makes this district special is that first of all, it's very well endowed with high grade mineralization, but it's also extremely accessible. If we all wanted to go there today, we would fly to the Mazatlán airport. You'd take a left from the airport if you wanted to go to the beach and be there in 15 minutes. If you wanted to get to the project, you drive 45 minutes up one of the two highways that bisect the property here, and you'd get to the western limit of our project. So this is an incredibly accessible project. And I think another way to demonstrate that is actually we've, drilled over 350,000 meters here, which is an incredible accomplishment. We have what Michael Gray of Agentis refers to as the world's largest undeveloped high-grade silver resource. And we did all that drilling without having to build a road. So that gives you a sense of, first of all, the savings that we get, tens of millions of dollars of savings likely by not having to build roads, but also how accessible this mineralization is. So I think that's an important point. There's high tension power, there's water, there's everything that you need to build a mine here because this is a brownfields mining district, recently consolidated. Important to note that the western portion of this district contains over 95% of our resources. So that's important. It's not disparate spread across, veins spread across an entire district. Yes, there are veins across this district, but the areas that we've drilled and this MRE that we have sit very tidily in the western portion, in essentially a 4-kilometer radius from the center point. So we're fortunate about that. I'm confident there's going to be many more discoveries in the west. Speaking of our specific resource here today, and comparing to a year ago when we made our second resource update, today, on Monday, our January resource here is our third resource statement. January last year, we updated our resource with our second statement. And from that January, a year-over-year increase from our previous resource, we've seen a 27% increase in indicated tons, 69% increase in inferred tons, 49% increase in indicated ounces, 49% increase in inferred ounces, and a 17% increase in the average indicated grade. So that gives us, in the indicated category, 156 million ounces of silver equivalent at 511 grams per ton silver equivalent. Incredible grade, incredible size. And inferred 170 million ounces at 437. So, pardon me, it's slightly higher there, 433. So we're absolutely thrilled with the outcome here, to see ounces increase, to see grade increase, and to see this year-over-year trend of increasing. It's something very special. And of course, the craziest thing to me, the thing that stands out the most, is that this resource sits on 10% of the known vein strike in the district. We've barely scratched the surface as it comes to exploration here, and there's so much more, even in our center of mass in the west, for us to continue to explore. So, this is going to be a thrilling project for years to come. Next slide, please. Now, looking a little bit more granular on the resource itself, 48% of this resource is classified in the indicated category. 90% of the value of the updated MRE is comprised of precious metals. And that's 56%. 56% of those values are in silver. So this is a silver primary project, but it does have, meaningful gold credits. It does have a lot of gold value here. And actually, we've started to, I feel like once you hit a certain size of silver ounces, it starts to lose a little bit of meaning, I think, to some investors. So it's always helpful to kind of refer back to gold equivalent. Yes, it's a silver primary project, but it does have it has very high gold content. So it's truly a precious metals project. And, if we were to refer to the indicated ounces as gold equivalent, it'd be almost 2.1 million ounces of gold equivalent at spectacular grade at just under 7 grams per ton, 6.8 grams gold equivalent. That's impressive. And in inferred category, 2.26 million ounces at just under 6 grams. So, looking at this in gold terms, it's, comparable to Great Bear. It's comparable to some of the world's largest gold discoveries in the last 10 years as well. So another way to look at that, I think, is important. Now, the base case silver equivalent cutoff grade considered a $24 silver price and $18 gold price. It also considers metal recoveries of 93% for silver, 90% for gold, 94% for lead, and 94% for zinc. We assumed a mining cost of $45 a ton, rock and processing, treating and refining, transportation, and a G&A cost of $50 a ton of mineralized material based on comparable projects. Now, we separate the two resource areas into primary areas, the Copala area, which is a precious metals dominant area, and it includes Copala, Tajitos, Cristiano, and then the Napoleon area, which includes Napoleon, the Napoleon Hanging Wall, Josephine, Cruz, and then our new La Luisa vein, which was a discovery that we made earlier in the year in 2023, and as a demonstration of how fast things can move in this project, it moved from prospect discovery to resource to about 30 million ounces in our resource in that year. So, an incredible rate of growth here for La Luisa. And the Napoleon area hosts the majority of our base metal values. So Copala, more precious metals rich, and actually almost exclusively precious metals. And Napoleon has a small amount of base metals there, but again, a precious metals district. San Antonio and Animas are satellite zones, and they're located in the central portion of our district. When we first arrived at the district, that was where we started drilling, and then we moved over to the west and haven't looked back since then. As of September 1st, 2023, which was the cutoff of the resource, the company incurred an aggregate of $103 million US in exploration expenditures on the life of the project. And that yields a total all-in exploration cost of 32 cents per ounce discovered. That's an incredible number, and it's a very high return on invested capital here. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Oh, pardon me, actually go back to talk about the sensitivity here. So although we state the resource at a cutoff grade of 150 grams silver equivalent, we have highlighted the 250 gram cutoff grade numbers because it's a little bit more representative of an operating scenario once you factor in the development and the dilution to get to production. And here we see in the indicated category, moving from 150 gram cutoff to 250 gram cutoff, you have a 28% increase, but only lose 12% of the contained ounces. So you have a meaningful increase in grade, and you lose only 12% of the ounces. Similarly, in the inferred category, we have a 30% increase in the average grade and a 16% reduction in contained ounces. So to see kind of across the board, give or take a 30% increased ounces at the higher cutoff grade and really a minimal loss to ounces demonstrates that as this project moves forward towards development and into production, it's doing what you want it to do, which is respond very favorably to higher cutoffs. And, these grades are really quite impressive here. For the 250, we're seeing an indicated grade of 650 grams silver equivalent in indicated and 556 in inferred. So, very, very impressive. Thank you, Mike. So what I like to point out on this slide here, and this has been one that's been changing for us, and we've seen our project grow, and I think that's representative of the fact that this project is early in its lifespan. Our comparables here in the producing section, where we look at Las Chispas, look at Juanicipio, so Silvercrest and Mag, which I believe are our best direct Mexican comparables of where we want to be as a producer. Although there's some different characteristics certainly about Vizsla that sets us apart. And then you also look at Aya Segounder's project. You can see that we are very comparable to Meg. Well, we certainly advanced past the Aya comparable and looking at Meg's Juanicipio, we compare in grade. Of course, this is still an early period of time for the company and the project where we continue to do more infill drilling. You could potentially see these grades increase, but we do lead the explorer developer category in grade. And then we're also the largest undeveloped project by a large margin here. So we have the best of both worlds. We have that high grade, we have the size in terms of ounces, and that means that we're a clear standout. There's nothing really like this project in the hands of a developer, and certainly, I think in the hands of a producer as well. To have an entire district here that we control 100%, we own the property 100%. We've only discovered one of these centers of mass here. I believe that there's going to be multiple centers of mass throughout this district, and of course, Jesus and Martin will talk about our exploration program going forward and how we target these things. But looking at this, the empirical data here of our grade, our ounce count, and then the scale of the project puts us in a league of our own, I firmly believe. And of course, the resource update that we put out was just a milestone, a snapshot in time as we continue to grow. So that's, I think, the takeaway from this slide. And what I'll do here is I'll turn over to Martin and Jesus to talk about the Copala section here and the wireframe.
Okay, hello. Here's Copala. Vizsla's continuing to aggressively drill the Copala structures since the last MRE and all the way through 2023 with an average of 4 rigs turning in the area. It continues to be a major focus for the company, given its broad widths and high-grade metal contents. We currently have 3 rigs drilling at Copala. 2 are doing infill, and 1's doing their geotechnical program. as you can see on the section here, the dimensions have grown significantly along strike to the south from our drilling. We've increased a significant amount of new inferred, and we've converted a large amount of the inferred we had previously on the northern side from the high grade mineralized chute over there. So you can see 47% increase in the indicated tons, and that's from a lot of conversion of the inferred. 63% increase in the indicated ounces, 11% increase in the average indicated silver equivalent from 516 to 573. So that demonstrates that our previous high grade inferred mineral, which was in 617 grams per ton, has been proven with this infill drilling. The inferred tons we've had a 13% increase of tons, a slight reduction in grade. That's due to slightly lower grades, still well over 460 grams per ton on the south side of the Copala structures. Also, good to note is that Copala structure, the indicated resource consists of 98.5% precious metals, and 66.3% of that is silver. Okay, we can go to the next slide. Jesus will take us through more of the details of the geology and the 2024 program.
Good morning, everyone. Okay, so this is again another longitudinal section of the Copala deposit block model, essentially, and just for your benefit, Copala is a near surface, high grade silver and gold structure. It's fairly wide. In average, what we have determined with drilling, it's an average width of 9 to 10 meters and up to 82 meters in its northern part to the right, where actually mineralization lays closer to surface around this area. The structure strikes northwest and dips in average at 46 degrees to the east in this direction towards us in the spring. And this structure, it's really important, as Martin mentioned earlier. It's precious metals rich structure. It has a very high silver to gold ratio compared to the mineralization in the other deposits that we're going to be presenting. And as you can see here in this table at the bottom, it hosts over 83 million ounces of silver equivalent in the indicated category, and over 48 million ounces of silver equivalent in the inferred category. And all that mineralization is hosted within a broad envelope of breccia vein mineralization with multiple complex quartz vein stages mixed with some of the host rock. By the way, the host rock is predominantly andesite in the vein, and particularly in the northern portion of the vein. The vein sits very close to the contact between the andesite and diorite intrusion. It's on the place of the footwall of the mineralization. So I mentioned the mineralization. It's deeps approximately an average at 46 degrees, but the structure is actually is not a strike vein structure. Rather, it is a more complex, shallow dipping structure in the north, dipping at 35 degrees, and then it has an inflection point kind of in the middle of the structure, and then it steepens to over 55 degrees in the south. What we have done throughout 2023 is pretty much drilling in the southeast portion of the structure around this area, where, as Martin mentioned already, we have used 2 to 3 drill rigs in this zone in the south and one in the north to pretty much upgrade infill resources and conduct a little bit of expansion. So what we have seen in Copala this year is a tremendous growth in terms of resource and conversions of inferred resources into indicated resources. For example, we estimate that we converted approximately 30 million ounces of inferred resources from 2023 into indicated resources in this new update that we just published. That's with respect to the drilling and mineralization. So in other information details, so this block model is supported by 179 holes. And for this year, for 2024, what we plan in Copala is to continue with the infill drilling of the southern extension or southern portion of Copala, where we intend to drill over 3,800 meters around this zone, to continue with the upgrade of mineral resources. Copala remains open along strike to the south and to the north, and particularly here in the north, we have a gap, an exploration gap between the resource limit over here and the La Colorada mine that is located approximately 400 meters north, 300 to 400 meters north of our resource limit. So essentially, we have an exploration gap within this zone that is still open for exploration with, potentially high-grade mineralization under the Copala town. Besides the infill drilling that we plan to conduct in this zone during 2024, we also intend to explore farther to the north along the Copala structure, where we interpret there is the intersection of the Copala structure with the Napoleon. This is a location that we refer to as the La Estrella zone. So this is more like a conceptual target that we intend to test with 1,200 meters for this year as well. And yeah, I think next one, please. I'll turn it over to Mark.
Okay, for the Napoleon drilling since the last resource, again, was concentrated on the southern extent here, and we greatly increased the inferred material over there. It's an 87% increase from 1.7 million tons to 3.2 million tons, 101% increase in the silver equivalent ounces. We also had an 8% increase in grade from 318 to 342. For the indicated, the tonnage stayed fairly similar with a 2% increase from 3.2 million to 3.3 million. But with the work that we did on the interpretation and stuff, the grade has increased by 27%, I believe. So for 2024, we're going to continue to infill and upgrade that southern section to indicated. Go to the next slide, Jesus.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Well, this is Napoleon again, the block model with grade interpolation. And Napoleon, well, it is our longest structure in terms of structure hosting resources. And so it's a 2.5 kilometer northwest trending structure that dips steeply to the east. It dips approximately between 70 and 80 degrees to the east. And the vein develops or tend to develop multiple splays, particularly at the hanging wall in the southern portion that I'm pointing out here, just south of the Gallinero high-grade chute, and also south of the intersection with the Blue Share Fault that merges or goes across the Napoleon vein, approximately at this point where the grade kind of drops off. The vein and its place currently hosts over 45 million ounces of silver equivalent in the indicated category, and over 35 million ounces of silver equivalent in the inferred category. It is mainly hosted by diorite, particularly in the north, and in the south, something that we have seen important, something that we consider an important characteristic is that the vein, besides of developing multiple splays, it is also hosted partially at least by rhyolite lithologies, and even some rhyolite dikes have intruded this southern portion of the vein, where the mineralization tends to drop a little bit. Something that I forgot to mention since the beginning is that, as you can see, the ore band or the high grade band of mineralization along Napoleon, plunges to the south. And something that we have interpreted more recently is that this plunge in mineralization is related to tilting of volcanic blocks due to faulting during the Miocene or even during the post-Miocene. Drilling during, as Martin mentioned already, drilling during 2023 occurred in this zone over here, either using 1 or 2 rigs. All of the drilling essentially was for infilling inferred resources into indicated resources, which help us to boost our indicated resources in Napoleon from over 36 million ounces in 2023 in the indicated category to over 45 million ounces silver equivalent in this mineral resource update. We also, in addition, we added some inferred resources in this area from, that shows an increase from over 17 million ounces to 35 million ounces silver equivalent, only related to the addition of some of these veins, splays, and a little bit of resources that were incorporated in the hanging wall, what we call the hanging wall vein in this southern part of Napoleon. What we estimate in terms of conversion of inferred into indicated is between 20 and 25% of the previous inferred resources, and this block model, resource model, is supported with 292 holes. With respect to plans for this year, for 2024, we plan to drill over 3,800 meters in the infill drilling category. All of the infill drilling is going to be conducted in this zone, what we call El Gallinero South, and predominantly here in this zone, and a little bit into this zone further to the south, where we did most of our drilling this year. And we also plan to do some expansionary drilling or exploration drilling along the structure in 3 different zones where we have identified potential feeder zones. These zones are more or less correlate with the arrows over here, particularly this one over here, another one here, and here. So these 3 areas at the bottom of the Napoleon are areas that we have identified, recognized as potential feeder zones to the vein structure of the 2.5 kilometer structure, and this is where we intend to do all of our exploration or expansion drilling this year. Napoleon continues to be open along strike and also at depth. As we mentioned iteratively, the vein is enriched base metals and has a typically lower silver to gold ratio compared to Copala. And with this, I'll turn it over to Martin.
Okay. Luisa's, yeah, go ahead, Cesar.
I think, this is my text. Thank you, Martin. Yeah, sorry. This is La Luisa. Well, La Luisa, it's another epithermal vein with very similar characteristics to Napoleon. We even interpret that the mineralization or the high grade, shows the same plunge mineralization to the south, similar to Napoleon in this direction. What we have defined with mapping, in terms of surface expression, is a strike length of 1.5 kilometers of vein structure, outcropping, and surface. And with drilling, we have determined a strike length of over 1.6 kilometers based on 44 drill holes along the La Luisa structure. This is a new addition to the resource inventory. the global resource inventory for Napoleon, with plus 25 million ounces in the inferred category at very good grade. La Luisa is also enriched in gold and has a lower silver to gold ratio compared to Copala, but it is a little bit richer in gold with respect to Napoleon, and therefore also shows a lower silver to gold ratio compared to Napoleon. For this year at La Luisa, what we intend is to drill over 5,600 meters of infill drilling in this zone to upgrade a significant amount of our resources into the indicated category. And we also plan to drill another 5,100 meters for expansionary drilling, and essentially to fill in the gap that we have in this zone to the north between our mineral resource wireframe and some exploration drill holes that intercepted mineralization 500 meters north of here, approximately here. So the intention is to fill in this gap, explore this gap, and continue the expansion of the La Luisa to the south, particularly at this higher elevation where we are seeing, very interesting intercepts with showing significant grades. Yeah, I think, La Luisa, remains open along strike and at depth, of course, although at depth, as Napoleon, is the case for Napoleon, the vein tends to be enriched in lead and zinc, particularly.
Jesus,
yeah.
Mike here, I just, something kind of occurs to me here when we talk about La Luisa is, your understanding, you and your team's understanding of, the district, basing on, what we know about Napoleon, was in part what led to the discovery of La Luisa. Can you maybe speak to how, we're starting to understand more and more of the district and how that's leading to a lower cost of discovery and things like that for the company?
Right. Yeah, of course. Yeah, well, definitely the discovery and understanding and modeling of Napoleon was key to our broad understanding of the district, particularly to the west initially, because, with the realization of the tilting of Napoleon mineralization to the south, we went on the field and recognized that this plunge in mineralization is actually produced by the tilting of the volcanics. As I mentioned, tilting was produced by post-mineralization faulting during the Miocene or post-Miocene age. And so this tilting, what we interpret is that this tilting should have been affecting other vein targets located west of Napoleon. And so we had this La Luisa vein, with two small adits right on surface and showing essentially very narrow vein and very low grades. But we replicate the model of Napoleon, and we applied a model of potential richer mineralization at depth with a certain plunge, or mimicking essentially the mineralization at Napoleon. And so we tested the model, and we put 4 holes very close to the mine adits that expose the vein and right on the surface, right here approximately at bottom of this creek. And the first 3 holes approximately intercepted the vein with very low grades, but the 4th grade drilled at approximately 100 meters below surface, 150 meters below surface, intercepted very, very meaningful grades. And that, essentially, we continue in that direction, and that led us to finding this important high-grade mineralization that now became into a 600-meter long resource wireframe in La Luisa. And so, after recognizing that in the west, we also, went and to the east and put more attention into the regional structures across the district, and recognize that there are at least 3 regional structures that are segmenting the district in 3 different blocks: the west block, the central block, and the eastern block. And something that we come up more recently with is that the district is composed of 3 different blocks the west block being down drop to the west, and the central block that is apparently uplifted and or is a horse. And then to the east, farther to the east, we have the eastern block that has been also down drop. And that's where we are, completing most of our mapping and target definition for coming years. And here is, to complement what I was saying. So this is the west area, and this is the area where we see most of the down dropping to the west, particularly across what we call the Copala fault, which is a fault structure that runs approximately here in northwest direction. So essentially, mineralization on this side of the fault has been tilted to the west southwest, and then we have an uplifted block in the central area that has uplifted mineralization and exposed probably the roots of the vein mineralization around the Animas and Cordón del Oro vein systems. And now we have another down drop block to the east where we are seeing, relatively narrow vein expressions outcropping right on surface, but with very, very significant silver and gold grades. This is what we call, or that we refer to as the Camellia area, where we have been, putting most of our mapping efforts throughout 2023. And this is what we intend to complete in detail mapping during 2024. And also, this is an area that we intend to drill or start drilling in the second half of this year. And for this area, what we plan is to drill approximately 15,000 meters in 4 or 5 different vein targets located around here on the Camellia and El Oregano zone. And I think the future is very bright for us in terms of exploration. We think this is low-hanging fruit for us because we have significant silver gold grades right on the surface in many of these veins. Yeah, I think that's with respect to mapping. To date we have completed 60% of the whole Panuco project map at 1 to 1,000 scale. And amongst other plans that we have for 2024 is that we plan to complete our EM survey throughout the property, and for that we have already contacted 3 different geophysical companies to start the bidding process for an EM survey through the property. We also, are getting quotes for high resolution multispectral satellite imagery because we want to continue adding our mapping success or mapping efforts. We have a very good foundation with the LiDAR model that we acquired. That's been really helpful and has been a real success in terms of helping us to define new structures, finding veins and all mines and adits. But with the addition of this geophysics that we intend to complete this year and the satellite imagery with multispectral, high resolution multispectral information, we intend to even boost even further our exploration success, particularly to the east. And as Michael mentioned in the beginning, this is the center of mass that we have defined in terms of resources. So, but what we intend with all this mapping, geophysical and satellite imagery efforts is to find additional mineralization sources or mineralization centers, i.e. center of masses throughout the property. I think that's it with respect to exploration.
And Jesus, of course, well, both Jesus and Martin Dupuy, both the gentlemen on the call here have, extensive experience with producers in Mexico. With Martin, with Pan American, and of course Jesus with Fresnillo and Fortuna and First Majestic. But I think it's interesting to kind of just even think about that experience, Jesus, that you had with the Juanicipio discovery with Peter McGaw, because of course Dr. Peter McGaw and Dr. Velador have been reunited here at the project and are undertaking basically a technical committee to look at the district as a whole. So I think it's just worth mentioning, your extensive background, Jesus, in exploration in this area with some of the world's largest silver companies.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Michael.
Okay, and Martin.
Okay, the de-risking, or the second part of our new catchphrase and the title of this presentation, something that we've been working with through 2023. We've collected a significant amount of information, all the information we need to move towards this PEA that we're going to complete in this first half of 2024. So the program for 2024, we have a bulk sample test mining program that we've developed. It's fully permitted now. We plan on taking 2 bulk samples, one from Copala and one from Napoleon. We plan to begin the underground development in early 2024. At this moment, we're preparing the surface infrastructure, lay down areas, room for offices, and those types of activities. This will be very useful for us to verify the recoveries, to verify the continuity of the structures and of the grade. As part of that, we're doing a tight space definition drilling, 6,500 meters, targeted at Copala and Napoleon, the areas of the test mining. The testings were selected because the area we have 25-meter center drilling. We did a test in Copala, 150 meters by 150 meters to verify the continuity of the geology and the grades, and it turned out quite well. And on the Napoleon side, those were our early holes where our pattern was 25-meter spacing. So this will provide us additional ore definition for when we get down there, that we'll be able to proceed without too much inconvenience of not knowing where the structure is. Another large program that we're doing is the optimized metallurgy. We've already done 3 initial programs, one at Napoleon, one at Tejidos, and the most recent one at Copala. So this optimized test is a phase program. We have 3 phases. First phase will be to confirm the flow sheet that you see on the left-hand side there. That was test T60. We also did a test T55 that gave similar results, but required finer grinding. So we're going to do some additional testing on the 3 structures to ensure this flow sheet works properly. Our second phase will be to confirmation of metallurgical response on a suitable number of variabilities, composites. That means we're going to test the different lithologies, host rock lithologies, and over the entire footprint of the resource, the block model. And then the third phase is to do some specific testing for the different kind of equipment and the plant design for future plant. Mike, do you have anything to add here?
Well, I'll just point out that, the flow sheet that we're looking at here is the most conservative, approach that we've seen here that we'll include in the PEA. Of course, it is an iterative process, so we are continuing to review this, but, so far we're comfortable with T60 here and our path forward. So all of the recoveries have been positive, low 90s for silver, 93 for gold here, I believe, at T60. So we've had some excellent recoveries already in metallurgy. It's a simple flow sheet. and looking forward to divulging even more information on this as we approach the PEA, and certainly included in the PEA. But we do have a very detailed press release detailing each of these metallurgy results, and of course the most recent being Copala. Now, of course, when you have the base metals in Napoleon and more precious in Copala, we take that into account here, and I think it's important to know that we're continuing to work on this metallurgy program. But please refer to any of our historic releases for great detail from what we have so far. Next slide, please. So, it's actually quite incredible what Vizsla and this team here has accomplished, because in a few short years we've gone from a very early stage exploration company with an option to acquire a district, a consolidated district, to now as Michael Gray refers to, and I like to give him credit for his work on this. Of course, the world's largest undeveloped high-grade silver resource, really just centered on the western portion of this overall district, really just such a small area of this overall district. So we've done that in a few short years. We've done that again without building roads. I think that's an important note to make. We've completed the initial metallurgical testing, which have returned high precious metals recovery for Copala, Napoleon, and Tajitos. We have 100% ownership of this district. We've completed over 350,000 meters of capital efficient drilling to date, and of course, industry-leading discovery cost. In progress right now, we have the bulk sample test mine centered around Copala and Napoleon. That's moving forward. It's permitted. We're optimizing metallurgy further. We continue drilling today. We took maybe a short week off. I'm sure the people at site will refer to it as a short week off over the holidays. And, we're back at drilling right now. We're drilling resource conversion, expansion holes at Copala and Napoleon. But for me, I think, we got to where we are here because of discovery. Of course, we're going to de-risk the western portion of our district, but I think discovery and exploration will always remain a very important part of this company and a very important part of this project, because they're going to be continuing to find new deposits of silver here for decades and decades to come, I'm sure. And so we have ongoing exploration at high priority targets across the district. Jesus spoke at this in excellent detail, talking about the mapping and the geophysics. This is all planned further for 2024. And we have initial geotechnical hydrological studies. We recently published, and I have it right here. Please feel free to look on our website. We have an excellent ESG video and a report that talks about some of the work we've been doing, including baseline environmental work and some of our concepts as it pertains to environmentally friendly silver, really. And our next steps here, in 2024, likely in the second half of 2024, we like to deliver our initial preliminary economic assessment. We're convinced that I think it'll be a very encouraging document. Some of the research all the research that the analysts that cover us, have done a great job exploring what that might look like. So, if you're interested, I would recommend reaching out to, Agentis, CIBC, Raymond James, Canaccord, PI, and the list goes on of excellent analysts that cover us, Stifel. And I want to make sure that people have access to those coverage reports, because it's excellent and could give you an indication of what we're thinking for the PEA. And of course, we'll continue with an updated resource as we continue to drill. This resource came out this week here, really just a moment in time. I believe that we're well on our way to becoming a 1 billion ounce silver district, much like San Dimas, 80 kilometers away. I'm happy to get into more detail with that as well, but maybe we'll go to the next slide, Mike. And I've said this many times before, and it actually only got about 25-30% more true when we announced this resource, because we're criminally undervalued. We went from over $1 EV per ounce, and now we're trading at about 80 cents EV per ounce. which is substantially lower than even the explorer developer peer group that we should be in. So I think naturally we'll see a re-rating back to that EV per ounce that we were at prior to this resource. But aspirationally, looking forward, you know, our comparables, our producing comparables, Juanicipio and Las Chispas. Again, remember that you know, we are unique. We have the high grades of Silvercrest. We have, you know, the robust economic potential for robust economics like Meg Silver, thicker structures like Meg Silver. But we own this district 100%, and it is a district. So we have a combination of scale, ownership, size, and grade that is unlike anything on this entire page here. So I think that's important to note. But the best way to look at where could we go based on what we see in the market today, you know, comparables are trading at 6 times our EV per ounce as they move to production. So that is really the convincing that you need, or that we need, I suppose, as a team to move this forward into production, into development, because you reach a higher EV per ounce valuation metric. Shareholders are rewarded by doing that. And if you look at the charts of Silvercrest and Meg Silver, the last two silver producers to go into production in Mexico during this Morena presidency, you'll note that the charts really started to take steam, to gather steam and construct very nicely after the PEA and moving towards that de-risking. So that's why we're moving towards this to maximize value for shareholders. And on the bottom, you know, our market cap today in US dollars is still sub 300 million. You know, in relative value, we've started to really move against some of our old peers. You know, we're starting to outperform our old peers, and I think we are moving to the right-hand side of this chart over time. I think at the end of the day, you know, our combination of size, scale, and grade really allows us the ability to move to that right hand of the chart here in the future. And again, criminally undervalued. Next slide, please. So why Vizsla Silver? I mean, already such a huge resource that we have here, 350,000 meters completed, such a large high-grade resource that's going in the right direction every time we update it. Comparing against ourselves, it's looking better every time we make an update on the resource. But still, we are drilling more this year, 65,000 meters of ongoing discovery and resource drilling with 4 drill rigs, PEA expected in mid-2024. And it's so hard, it's so important not to understate the discovery potential that exists in this district. Very, very unlikely that we, you know, in the first year of exploration, made that discovery of the best areas in the district. I think it's likely that, you know, the best is yet to come, even in exploration, as Jesus talked about, as we even just start to understand our own resources better and apply that knowledge to discovery elsewhere. But we're going to be helped. You know, we're doing a lot of kind of classic prospecting, mapping, sampling, these types of things. But, you know, we're using technology, LiDAR, EM later this year to support significant upside discovery potential. Working with people like Dr. Peter McGaw and others, I think bringing more minds to the exploration, of course, only helps our chances. So I think, you know, if you were to fast forward 5 years from now, Vizsla certainly in production with multiple different high-grade centers of mass elsewhere that we've discovered in those years. So a huge amount of potential to add value for shareholders through discovery. And as we, you know, move our western center of mass towards production, using the existing operating infrastructure, the roads, the power, it only helps us minimize cost and minimize timeline as we move forward. So, you know, this project is absolutely blessed with the infrastructure that it has, and we'll continue to utilize that to create value. And we are well funded here. You know, we have about $26 million Canadian in the bank. We have 0 debt. We own the property 100%. We are in excellent shape financially. Now, I think probably a great time here to answer some questions, and we don't have to stop in 5 minutes. I'd love to answer questions as they come.
Great, thanks everyone. Okay, we've got a couple questions here right off the bat on the resource. One of our participants says, congratulations on the excellent updated resource. Are the grade capping values used in the updated resource estimate the same as the previous estimate?
Yeah, so for the capping, we redid all the log probability plots, obviously, because we have all the new information. And we used a couple of other different methods to select them. It varies from vein to vein, right? So some of them are slightly higher, some of them are slightly lower. Of course, our QP also did his own estimation or his own analysis of what the capping should be, and in the end, Copala is a little bit higher. Some of the other ones are a little bit lower, but they're kind of in the same range.
Great, thanks, Martin. Maybe you can continue and just comment on any internal dilution factor included in the current mineral resource estimate.
There's no factors. The only internal dilution is what would be built into the interpretation, into the solids.
Okay, and can you comment on the average widths of the various veins in the estimate?
Yeah, it varies from different locations on different structures, right? In Copala on the northern side, we're averaging over 10 meters of width, and then once we get to the south, then it narrows down to more around 5 or 6 meters over there. And then on Napoleon in the central part, we're approximately 3.5 meters, and when we get to the southern end, it breaks up into multiple narrower splays. We have up to 11 splays in some locations that have been interpreted.
Great, thanks, Martin. Jesus, just going to talk a little bit about planned drilling for 2024. Can you please provide a breakdown of the 2024 planned drilling? How much will be infill versus exploration? And where are the drills currently located on the property?
Sure, of course. Well, as you know, what we have budgeted for this year is over 65,000 meters of drilling, and the way we have distributed or allocated these meters into the different categories is it's approximately over 13,000 meters of infill drilling. Approximately 21% of budget is going to be for infill, and another 17,000 meters is going to be for resource expansion, which represents 26% less of the global budget. Another 9,900 meters, close to 9,900 meters, for de-risking the project, PEA, essentially PEA studies, which includes a little bit hydrology, drilling, geotech, and also the delineation holes. And the remaining of that, approximately 24,400 meters, is for true exploration, which represents 38% of the 65,000 meters budget. And the way we're going to distribute that budget, particularly the exploration budget through the property, is 15,000 of those 24,000 meters are going to be, drilled on the eastern side of the property, where we spoke before. We have multiple vein targets with significant silver gold grades right surface, and the remaining of that is going to be drilled in the west area, to essentially test another targets like the one I mentioned north of Copala, where we interpret the intersection of the Copala structure with Napoleon, and another, the potential feeder zones along the 2.5 kilometers of the Napoleon structure. Some of those kind of targets to more oriented to adding new resources into the west, where we have our center of mass, but a significant amount still in the eastern side, in the new area where we foresee we're going to be, finding another center of mineralization.
Could you comment on if the company is still planning to drill the uplifted block in 2024?
Not for this year, although we still have targets. We tested with 4 holes early last year. We tested the concept. We definitely proved the concept of the uplifted block. determined the block is actually uplifted between 300 and 350 meters to the east of Copala. We had a couple of intercepts, 2 or 3 main intercepts on the uplifted side of the block. One of them, showing base metal mineralization, with essentially, proves the concept of being, having of little mineralization, or showing the exposing the roots of the system on the east side of the fault. But right now, for this year, our priorities is the, adding resources closer to the high grade resource models that we have already, the center of mass, and developing a new center of mass mineralization in the east, where it appears we have low hanging fruit in terms of grade.
Thanks, Jesus. Maybe you can just comment on when the company will drill the eastern part of the district.
It is scheduled to start in the second half in June this year.
Okay, great.
We still gotta complete a little bit of detailed mapping in some areas. We have defined already multiple targets. There's still some mapping to complete, and also, the meantime, we're gonna, go through the process of getting all the environmental permits to drill.
Great, thanks, Jesus. Martin, we've got a few questions on metallurgy here. Can you briefly outline the MET work that's been completed to date, and let us know if the optimized MET program will be complete before the PEA?
Okay, so we did 3 preliminary programs. The first one was Napoleon, when we were early in the drilling in 2021. Napoleon was, we got some pretty good results for the whole ore leach, and Napoleon is also, due to the high base metals, it gave some good results for flotation and with a concentrate product at the end. And then the second program was with Tajitos. Tajitos is very similar to Copala, with low base metals and mostly it again, a whole ore leach gave us good results. At that time, we didn't do the flow sheet that's been recommended by our QP in the last Copala test. And then our third preliminary test was for Copala that I think we put the press release out in June. And this is where we got our best recoveries using the flotation with the whole ore leach. This next more involved program that we're taking on is not going to be ready for the PEA. This is a higher level test, and will take a minimum of 6 months to complete, and we haven't started yet.
Okay, great, thanks. Martin, can you just, you probably touched on some of this already, but what are the key goals and parameters to be collected from the test mining program? Dilution and recovery estimates, or are you more focused on bulk sample for MET work?
We have, several objectives. The first is to verify the continuity, geological continuity, the rock quality. So there's also some engineering things that we hope to get more detail on, so we know what our ground support requirements and things like that are going to be, and to see the vein and to sample the vein and to verify the resource estimate that it's in, within the range that we expect it to be. At this point, we don't have anywhere to process the bulk sample that has a similar flow sheet to what we are anticipating at this point. The local plants are all flotation. In Durango, there's some leaching plants, but none has the flotation with the whole ore leach that we're looking at. So we're still investigating how we're going to process this test mining material.
Great, thanks, Martin. Mike, move over to you here. In the 2024 Outlook press release, you mentioned a potential royalty spinout. Can you provide more details on these plans, and what's the reasoning behind it?
Yeah, I think that's a very exciting piece for shareholders here. The idea is basically to have the Panuco district, which, you know, in my personal belief, I think has the potential to become a 1 billion ounce district, silver equivalent district. And shareholders currently, you know, have exposure to that through, of course, Vizsla Silver and our ownership on the property. When we negotiated the deal, part of the property had no royalty, so we're able to put essentially 2% royalty across the entire property and spin that into a wholly owned company that will then be spun out to shareholders on a dividend per share basis, very similar to what we did with Vizsla Copper. If you recall, Vizsla Copper came out, I recall, I think 7 cents and went up to 70 cents. Was quite you know, profitable for shareholders after that. And of course, Vizsla Copper is now its own business that's continuing to explore and build a very large copper business is the aspiration there. With the royalty, we want to give shareholders and Vizsla Silver exposure to the value of the royalty, which we consider to be locked up in the company right now. We think that that's the best way to maximize value for this royalty here. Vizsla Silver having ownership of the public company would be a way to mitigate any risk of losing basically flexibility for financing, in the sense that Vizsla Silver could always find buyers or you know, monetize its shareholdings in that company, the public company spin out. But essentially, it's a way to add more value to shareholders through something that we've identified as being undervalued within our current portfolio in Vizsla Silver currently.
Okay, continuing on the same vein here, Mike, Great Bear Royalties was created in part because of concern about a premature takeover offer. Do you have a similar concern with Vizsla given the fast pace of resource expansion and all the other value drivers?
Well, you know, certainly when you have a district like this that has such immense amount of upside, you know, there's always going to be the sense that there's you know, that any takeover would be premature because you haven't found all the ounces out there, and having a royalty in a spun out company is a good way to have exposure to those ounces in the future, right? So, you know, I can't comment on interest levels from various companies or any type of corporate activities like that, but I think it's an important way to give shareholders exposure to future ounces across the district. Again, you know, I think it's important to note that my view and I think our team's view and a lot of people's view is that we're criminally undervalued. So we have a lot of milestones to hit here before I think we get to a value that you know, we'd be interested in doing anything corporately. And of course, our vision is to do this ourselves here and move forward and build this enormous project and be one of the world's largest single asset, if not the world's largest single asset silver primary producers.
Great, thanks, Mike. Question here, how much cash do you currently have, and what's the expected cash burn rate for Vizsla Silver in 2024?
So we have $26 million in the bank here, and we're funded for our immediate goals here, the test mining, the PEA moving forward. So we're in excellent shape financially.
Great. I think that's wrapping things up here time-wise. Mike, did you have any closing comments you wanted to make and before we shut things down here?
Yeah, you know, I think as we move forward here, you know, I do see some questions about production and these types of things as we move forward. And you know, the first step towards that, of course, is this PEA, and the PEA will be building off of the excellent resource and all the hard work that our team has put into this resource. And from that point, of course, it's further de-risking, higher confidence drilling, feasibility study, and then construction decision and construction and then production. So, you know, the time frame for that, I think, will be based off of the PEA, and it's something that we can disclose publicly a little bit later in the year. But of course, that is our intention. Our intention is to move it forward. You know, some people ask about, you know, have you hit that critical mass yet? You know, I think we hit the critical mass probably on our second resource. You know, when we started out, we were, we thought to ourselves, I wonder if we can get to 60 million ounces here on some of these veins. So, I think in the silver space, we've certainly hit that critical mass. The question is, how big of a production scenario do we investigate, and what does it look like going forward? But that's what the PEA is for. PEA is coming out later this year, focused on that western portion of the project. We have the whole other district to explore, the whole rest of the district to explore, and Jesus and his team are dead set on making new big discoveries across this project. So again, moving forward, exploring and de-risking a tier 1 and emerging tier 1 silver gold district. That's what we're doing here. Shareholders, I believe, have a huge amount of upside in the shares today at this value. And as we saw on that comparable EV per ounce slide, we are criminally undervalued, even compared to our direct explorer developer, peer group there. But certainly, as we look to the value that companies like Silvercrest and Meg Silver get for being in production. So that's the direction that we're moving in. I believe it's going to be very profitable for shareholders. That's why insiders continue to buy the stock. And I want to say thank you to first of all, our team here for putting this on, everybody that was involved in putting the webinar on, and to all of the attendees, thank you very much for giving us your time out of your busy schedules. And to our shareholders, thank you for your support. And I should also add, run Vizsla Run. Find our information on the website if you want to contact us. Email, phone, social media, we're available on all those things. So please don't hesitate to reach out if we didn't answer your question.